Hey friends, it is time to build another workbench. Now I did build one a few weeks ago, which has become the home of my CNC, but I do have this workbench right here, which is where I build all of my projects and have been building them. I built this workbench 12 years ago and it has served well, but it's just a tad small. It's a super easy project, by the way, and I have the plans for this, but it's a tad too small and it is time to replace it. As always, I have the detailed plans available for you, and this project is sponsored by my friends at Craig Tools, so the free plans are available on the Craig website and the link will be in the description below. 2x4s can be pretty rough, so I sent mine through the planer a couple of times, but this is totally optional. You could also use a random orbital sander. But the truth is, this is workshop furniture, so how well you want to finish it totally depends on you. Now it's time for pocket holes, and I'm using the Craig 720 to make these pocket holes, but you can use any Craig jig. I have a whole bunch of video tutorials on all things pocket holes and Craig jigs, so be sure to take a look at that. The setting for all of these pocket holes will be 1.5 inches on the jig height as well as the stop collar. Okay, now it's time to assemble. I'm gonna start off with the leg frames, and both the sides are slightly different. So we're gonna start with the easiest one, which is 2 legs and 2 short aprons, which are attached using pocket hole screws and wood glue. You do want to be really careful as you're attaching the bottom apron because of the offset, as well as you need to make sure that it stays perpendicular to the legs. With the aprons attached to one leg, it's time to attach the other leg. So I turned it around and tried to attach it. Now this is where I struggle with having a very narrow workbench, and I really wish it was deeper, and I can't wait to finish building this workbench so I have a wider surface to use. And that is one side of the leg frame. Now for the other side. To make sure that the location of the aprons was identical, I just put it on top of each other and marked exactly where they needed to go. Now this side does have other extra aprons which are going to support the smaller shelves as well as the drawers. So I measured and marked and did my absolute best to make sure that everything was perpendicular and square. And so we have the 2 sides of the workbench. Now it's time to attach the long aprons. Attaching these long aprons can be a little tricky because the boards are super long and can get heavy. Gravity is your friend, and you should definitely use that. It makes it so much easier to attach the pocket hole screws. Once one side is attached, the other side is pretty straightforward. You just lay it on its side and add those pocket hole screws in. And so we have the beginnings of the workbench. Now, next up, I'm going to cut up the plywood and add the bottom shelf. When building structures like this, it is always best to start from the bottom and build up so that you can get all of those sheets of plywood, etc. inside without any issues. Once the plywood was in, I added 2-inch trim head screws to hold it in place. Alright, now let's build the middle support. I actually debated between building the support separately and attaching it to the workbench, or building it directly inside the workbench, and I decided to go with the former approach where I build it separately because then I can make sure that everything is perpendicular and square. As you're attaching this, you want to make sure that you pay attention to the orientation and the spacing of each of the boards. This can get a little complicated, and I messed up and I had to pull it apart and put it all together again. As I'm building this, you will notice that I'm using lots and lots of clamps, and I highly recommend you get at least 4 clamps. 36-inch clamps or 48-inch clamps are absolutely perfect and will be very, very handy. Then I just placed that center divider onto the workbench and attached it. It can be a little tight to get a pocket hole screw in, but the 90-degree pocket hole screwdriver works perfectly for these situations. And then I added the small shelf, which was also attached using 2-inch trim head screws. I had not attached the top support, which is going to be underneath the drawer. Remember, you want to build bottom to top. So I added that in. And I added the long aprons at the top, which is what's going to be supporting the workbench top. Time to build the drawer. I'm using 3/4 inch plywood to build these drawers, but you can build the drawers using 1/2 inch plywood or even dimensional lumber. Building drawers is actually pretty straightforward, and I have a complete video that walks you through exactly how to build 3 different types of drawers. And this one is number 2 on that list, where I make butt joints using pocket hole screws. Of course, as soon as you build the box, you want to make sure that you double check for square. Once the box is built, I attached a 1/4 inch sheet of plywood to the back using brad nails and wood glue. I have built many drawers with this technique, and I am yet to see one of them fail. Now, in order to attach the drawer slides in the workbench, I needed a support to make sure that the drawer slides stayed level. To do this, I clamped a scrap piece of 2x4 from the bottom and used that as the support. I'm using full extension ball bearing drawer slides because this drawer is extremely deep at 22 inches, and with the full extension, I can pull it out and reach all the items in the back of the drawer. Now, the casters. I took off the workbench casters from my old workbench and simply attached them to this new workbench. I absolutely love these workbench casters, and almost all of my workshop furniture have these casters on them. When the casters are disengaged, the entire workbench sits on the ground and remains nice and stable. And when the casters are engaged, the entire workbench lifts up, and then you can easily move it around. At this point, after giving it some more thought, I added a cross brace 2x4 to help support the workbench top. I also quickly added the drawer front and the drawer hardware. Now it's time for the workbench top. Craig recently introduced the universal hardwood workbench tops, and they come in solid or with dog holes, and I went with the dog holes because I wanted additional clamping capabilities, and I'm really excited about this. I needed an extra set of hands to get it in place, and then I made sure that there was an equal overhang on all sides, used the quick flip to pre-drill countersunk holes, and attached using 2.5 inch pocket hole screws. Some areas were a little hard to reach, but the right angle pocket hole screwdriver came to the rescue again. I added the drawer back in, and we are done. I'm really excited about this workbench, but I'm a little conflicted because I feel like I should paint the bottom of the workbench, but the rest of my workshop furniture is natural. So let me know in the comments if I should paint it, and if so, what color. This workbench has all of the features I really wanted. Most importantly, storage. The small shelf is perfect to hold small tools and jigs. The large shelf fits my Craig ACS and the shop vac perfectly. The bottom small shelf will hold scrap wood and hopefully keep it confined to that area. The drawer is great to store all the dog hole accessories and things that I can grab quickly while building, like my safety glasses and hearing protection. But let's talk about the star of this workbench, the hardwood bench top with the dog holes. These dog holes are going to make clamping boards and building projects so much easier, and I can't wait to start building my next project on this. Once again, the detailed plans are available on craigtool.com, and the link to them as well as all of the tools and materials I used are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and here are a few other projects that you will enjoy.